Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for this official public hearing on the FirstLight water quality certification application. I'm Tim Jones with the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, also known as MassDEP. Also helping me this afternoon will be Tori Wu, who's running everything behind the scenes, Pam Harvey, who will be doing a short presentation in a few minutes, and Elizabeth Stefanik. We're holding an official public hearing that is being recorded and conducted remotely in a Zoom webinar format. Afterwards, the recording will be posted on MassDEP's website. The purpose of the hearing is to accept public comments on FirstLight Power's application for water quality certification that was filed with MassDEP on April 22nd, 2024. Here's how we'll run the hearing this afternoon. To minimize background noise and interference, the host has muted all remote participants and turned off the chat function. In a few moments, my colleague Pam Harvey will provide a brief PowerPoint presentation about the Massachusetts water quality standards. Those are the laws that guide our review of FirstLight's application for a water quality certification. After that brief presentation, we will hear from elected and appointed officials who wish to provide public comments on the FirstLight water quality certification application, followed by the remaining members of the public who wish to provide comments. After Pam Harvey does her PowerPoint presentation, which will occur in just a few moments, or I should say seconds, I'll follow up with directions on how to participate and volunteer to provide public comments. At this point, I'll turn the presentation over to Pam and Tori to start Pam's PowerPoint presentation. Pam and Tori?
Thank you, Tim. I'm happy to be here today to explain a bit about Section 401 and the water quality standards. It's a little less straightforward than some of DEP's regulatory programs, but basically I'm going to be covering the law and regulations governing DEP's 401 water quality certification of a license issued by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, for a hydroelectric project such as FirstLight. That is under consideration now that the application's been filed. I'm not going to be covering the FERC process, which is very lengthy and complex, as many of you may know. But what is important here is that the law governing energy facilities typically preempts state environmental laws. So 401 is the program that DEP has to be sure that federal licenses for hydroelectric projects will comply with our water quality standards. Next slide. Okay, so we begin with the Federal Clean Water Act, and this was the statute passed in 1972 with the ambitious goal of maintaining and restoring the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nation's waters. And it envisioned both federal and state roles to do that. And here we're going to be focused more on the state roles. But basically, permits are required under the law for discharge of pollutants. And then, very importantly, states are to establish water quality standards. All states have them. And also to monitor and assess their water bodies to see how they're doing as far as the water quality goes, to identify any impaired waters. Impairment means they don't meet the water quality standards, and to require remediation or restoration to the extent they are impaired. And then finally, and this isn't a completely comprehensive overview of the Federal Clean Water Act. It's quite comprehensive, but states certify whether or not a federal license meets water quality standards under Section 401. Next slide. Okay, this is really the main course. It's going to be covered in the subsequent slides as well, the surface water quality standards. And these are regulations that the department has. They're at 314 CMR4, and they establish the water quality goals for each water body in the state, designate uses of the water body, and set the standards or criteria to protect the uses of the water bodies. So again, each state develops their own water quality standards. They're fairly standardized because EPA has a set of regulations that specifies what their content has to be, and EPA does review and approve water quality standards. So there's some consistency, and there's also a long history and tradition of questions and answers about water quality standards. And then our standards cover these basic components: the classes of waters, designated uses, the criteria, and then these provisions called the anti-degradation provisions. So I'm going to be covering each of those in turn. Next slide. Okay, so the classes and uses, the classes in Massachusetts, we have Class A and Class B. This being Massachusetts, we have no Class C. All our waters are above average. So A is pretty much public water supplies, and for Class B, Connecticut rivers are Class B. As an inland water, there's a separate classification for coastal waters, but those are designated as habitat for fish, wildlife, and other aquatic life, and primary and secondary contact recreation. So this is under the heading of fishable, swimmable. You may have heard that in the context of the Clean Water Act, is the goal for waters. And then other uses as well can include irrigation, some industrial uses. It said they're compatible with these the fishable and swimmable uses. And then there can be numeric and narrative criteria to protect the designated uses. Next slide. Okay, so criteria are specific parameters for water quality. An example would be temperature. So water has to be above a certain temperature to sustain fish. That's an example of a numeric criteria. And then there are also some narrative criteria. So free from oil and grease, the free from standards is a narrative criteria. And they are implemented in the permitting programs to protect the designated uses and to ensure that water quality is maintained or restored. And they typically will function as water quality based effluent limitations in permits. So you may be familiar with that part of water quality standards and permitting under the Clean Water Act. And then importantly, water quality is considered impaired when the applicable requirements are not met. Okay, next slide. Okay, designated uses and existing uses. Designated uses these are spelled out in our water quality standards. One of the basic ones is the aquatic life use. And you can see there, it's the definition of a native, naturally diverse community of aquatic plants and animals. And it also includes, it specifically includes rare and threatened, endangered and threatened species. And it also includes the habitat necessary to protect those species at different stages of their lives. Recreation is a designated use, and it includes swimming, that's called primary contact, and boating, which is secondary contact. Again, this is fishable, swimmable. For Class A, it's often they're designated, not all, but often they're designated as public water supply. And then the other uses that can be allowed in Class B. There's another kind of use called an existing use, and that has a very particular definition. Again, it's relatively standardized in state water quality standards and some variations, but those include designated uses and any other uses that don't impair the designated uses that are actually attained in a water body after this particular date in 1975, which is again keyed in with the original passage of the Federal Clean Water Act. Next slide. Okay, and there are also these provisions in the water quality standards called the anti-degradation provisions, which again, all state standards contain these. They have protection for existing uses that those have to be protected. They have a category for high quality waters where if they already exceed the minimum standard, they have to be protected to maintain that higher standard. Again, the Federal Clean Water Act is serious about trying to keep water quality high and not allow slippage. And obviously, it's always a work in progress, but it's an important part of the program. And then there are some special protections for certain outstanding waters and special resource waters, which aren't relevant in this particular context. Next slide. Okay, so now we're back to Section 401, and this is a particular provision of the Federal Clean Water Act, which specifically requires that an applicant for a federal license or permit that has a discharge to navigable waters or an activity related to that to obtain certification from the state. In that case, in this case, Mass Department of Environmental Protection. And demonstrating compliance with the statute. And other Section 401 are issued by DEP for 404 dredge and fill permits issued by the Army Corps of Engineers, NPDES permits, those are for wastewater discharges, and then FERC licenses, which we're looking at here. The 401 water quality certification certifies that the water quality standards are met, both the criteria and the uses. They typically will include conditions to ensure that's the case. Denial is possible if the standards are not met. And then they also can include any other conditions related to any other appropriate requirement of state law. So that's part of 401 too. And then importantly, the 401 conditions become conditions of the federal license or permit. So you can see it's quite a powerful tool that states have with their water quality standards related to federal permits or licenses. Next slide. Okay, so now we're going to close the loop back to water quality standards and flows and FERC hydro licenses. So energy projects, again, hydro power facilities are energy projects, are licensed by FERC. So that's triggers jurisdiction under 401. Of course, they do typically affect flows. Certain pollutants may come into play as well, but flows are very important. And exactly how that would occur actually was resolved actually in a Supreme Court case, PUD number 1. It's a 1994 case. Don't say PUD, it's PUD. It was a case out of Washington State involving a hydro project. It was actually a dam, and the Washington Department of Ecology wanted to require minimum stream flows to protect their salmon. And that went through the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court on the question of whether or not water quality standards and 401 certifications could include water quantity or flows in addition to water quality. And the Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, said yes, they could. That water quality and quantity that was really an artificial distinction, because lowering of water of the quantity, meaning reduced flows, would impact the designated uses. So that was an important case. It was closely followed. There was an amicus brief that involved, I think, I don't remember exactly, but probably more than 40 states were involved. Massachusetts was involved, and so it was a very satisfying outcome, quite exciting at the time. The requirement is that in the 401 certification of a FERC license that the flows have to be maintained or restored to protect existing and designated uses. And our regulations at 314 CMR in 4.033B do require explicitly that. So that's our regulatory statement on that. Next slide. Okay, so here's the 4.1 certification of a hydropower project. What does it include? It includes quite a bit of background and fact finding. So and some of the facts that may be provided maybe from some of you. We have to find that there's reasonable assurance that the operation of a facility as conditioned will comply with state water quality standards, protect existing and designated uses, meet applicable criteria, and address any impairments that are associated with the operation of the facility. Also, they typically include long-term monitoring and mitigation plans to be sure that the project will comply with the water quality standards over the term of the license. Next slide. Okay, so what happens after it's issued? So there is an appeal to administrative hearing at DEP. A final decision by MassDEP's commissioner may be appealed to court. The FERC license is also can be appealed to federal court. The FERC license does include environmental concerns as well as other concerns. They do a different kind of review, but their licenses tend to be quite comprehensive. Interestingly enough, the water quality certification actually is issued before the FERC license, so we don't know the contents of the FERC license when we issue our 401. And after the appeals are resolved, the 401 conditions will govern, and our 401 will condition the operation of the facility over time. So that pretty much concludes a brief overview of the 401 process. I know some of you may have a good understanding of all this. For some of you, it may be new. We're here today, of course, to hear your comments and concerns about FirstLight's application for water quality certification of its hydro facility relicensing on the Connecticut River. I don't want to, in sort of going through this overview, there's no expectation that you will fit your comments or observations into this regulatory framework. Really, as we move forward, it's just to let you understand, to have a better understanding that DEP will be evaluating the application and public comments, really applying this framework to be sure that the project meets water quality standards going forward. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Pam. Really appreciate it. And as Pam said, while the water quality standards are very important to how we look at issues and our analysis, your comments don't have to stay within the confines of those standards. And we want to hear from you about the application. So with that said, I'm going to tell you now how we'll open up the hearing for oral comments. First, as I said before, we'll hear from elected and appointed officials. So if there are any elected or appointed officials present who wish to provide comments, you don't have to, but if you wish to provide comments, please raise your virtual hand now, if you have not done so already. And then after the elected and appointed officials who wish to comment have done so, we will call on members of the public and ask them to raise their virtual hands at that time. When you are unmuted, which will be in the order you raise your hand, and Tori Wu will unmute you in the order you raise your hand, and you'll be asked to state your name and affiliation if you are speaking on behalf of a group or organization, and provide your comments. If you're using a cell phone, you can use *9 to raise or lower your hand and press *6 to toggle the mute/unmute function. Commenters will be limited to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you're at about the 3-minute mark and remind you that you should try to wrap comments up relatively soon. MassDEP will not be responding to your comments. This is the type of official hearing where we're here to listen record and accept your comments and then consider them as we move forward. One thing I want to remind you, though, is that we will be posting the recording of this hearing online afterwards. And if you wish to go back and see Pam's presentation about the 401 water quality standards, you can look at that. I think we all also might be separating it out from the entire presentation and putting it as a standalone on its own. So you can go back through and look at that as well. And there is more information on the water quality standards online in an FAQ document online, for example. Okay, now we'll open up for comments. Tori, if you could call anyone who's raised their hand, who's an elected or appointed official at this time, please begin that now.
We have one raised hand for elected and appointed officials, two now. First, we have Ray Purrington, and on deck will be Stephen Ellis.
Okay.
When I call on you, you'll get a prompt to join as panelists. Please click yes, join as panelist, and unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ray Purrington. I am the town administrator for the town of Gill. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Gill Board of Selectmen, our Historical Commission, and our Conservation Commission. Gill is a small town of approximately 1,550 residents and 14 square miles of land area. There are 10.3 miles of Connecticut River frontage in Gill, comprising the entire eastern and southern boundaries of our town. A healthy river is of vital importance to our community and to the region as a whole. With regards to the 401 water quality certification, the primary concern that needs to be addressed is erosion and siltation. During the 50 years these two projects have operated under the current FERC licenses, landowners have watched in dismay as foot after foot of shoreline, up to 30 feet or more in some places, including protected farmland, has eroded and washed away downriver. Some of the eroded soils eventually settle out in the various inlets and coves, especially the 160-acre Barton Cove located just above the Turner's Falls Dam. The resulting siltation impairs the recreational use of the river for boating and fishing and makes it easier for aquatic invasive species to take hold. The erosion mitigation efforts required of FirstLight by the current FERC licenses have been largely unsuccessful. Furthermore, a 2009 riverbank stabilization project known as Bank Stabilization Phase 3, which is MassDEP file number 162-68, still has not received a certificate of compliance from the Gill Conservation Commission. FirstLight has been made aware of this deficiency multiple times over many years and has yet to respond or take action. The operations that have been proposed for the new license will not resolve the erosion problems they cause. FirstLight has not proposed adequate protection, mitigation, and enhancement measures to address the impairments, improve water quality, and sustain healthy aquatic habitats. The town of Gill strongly urges MassDEP to include conditions in its water quality certification that will reduce river level fluctuations due to project operations, require an annual full river reconnaissance to monitor erosion and riverbank stability, require FirstLight to maintain and repair all riverbank restoration projects started and/or completed under the current licenses, and hold FirstLight responsible for minimizing and mitigating soil erosion and siltation resulting from project operations. And I thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Purrington.
Next, we have Stephen Ellis, and no one on deck after that.
Thank you, Tori.
Sorry about that. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you very much for your time today. My name is Steve Ellis. I'm the town administrator and appointed official of the town of Montague. I offer these comments on behalf of my office, as well as that of the Select Board of the Town of Montague, who serve as Chief Executive Officers. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I would like to begin by offering a strong statement of support for the comments and the requests that were just expressed by Town Administrator Ray Purrington. And, I guess I would like to start by saying, Montague is a town of approximately 8,600 people. And in so many ways, this community, its entire existence, economic, traditional, cultural, has been defined by the Connecticut River, which flows right through our downtown. And, we have previously signed certain agreements, recreational settlement agreements specifically, which, although we were not party to the Flow and Fish Passage Settlement Agreement, requires that we not oppose any of the terms of that settlement agreement. So I'm going to keep my comments really focused principally upon erosion and historic properties management today. The Turner's Falls impoundment specifically is of concern. It has, in some conversations that I have had in the past with state officials and others, been described in some sense as a sacrifice zone for the rest of the projects. We understand and appreciate that there are more pristine riverine environments to the north and to the south of this area, but we view this as having equal standing from the standpoint of being protected land and protected water for the purposes of the water quality assessment. And we hope that you will view it in the same manner. We have specific concerns related to the operational levels that have been described in the proposed agreements, or the application rather, of FirstLight, with allowing an operating elevation range for the impoundment as low as 176 feet up to 185 feet, which I understand to be pretty much the elevation that is approaching the height of the gates of the dam. And, we also understand that 176 feet would be an extraordinarily low water level to maintain in that area, and that it would cause significant, potentially irreparable harm, particularly if it were maintained at that low level for all aquatic life and for water quality in the impoundment area. This is a living, breathing, and important part of our ecological landscape in the community, and is of great concern to all of us. We would recommend at minimum that the process determine that we should have a narrower, acceptable operating range, perhaps with a minimum level of 179 feet. We understand that this is the level within which this project has operated under almost all normal circumstances over the course of the last license period. And we have understood from previous conversations that it would not be the utility's intention to operate in the vicinity of 176 feet. If that is an emergency requirement, let it stand as such, and please define an emergency requirement that would allow such low levels. In addition to its direct impact on, whatever life may exist and water quality may exist, we also see real concerns, quite frankly, relative to the erosion issue, not having any controls for how frequently, we may see lower and higher levels. Thank you for bearing with my comments if I run over. I do want to say that
you are a little bit over, but wrap it up. Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you, Timothy. The town is also concerned that a robust traditional cultural property study has not been completed, and we believe the historic properties management plan should be allowed an extended period for consideration, with redacted copies made available to protect sensitive resource areas while also allowing public consideration. This is also amplified by statements that our historical commission is on record as stating. With all of that, I want to thank you for your consideration. I do hope that you will choose to have your in-person public hearing occur in downtown Turner's Falls, which would be very highly accessible. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ellis. Okay, at this point, we'll, unless there are additional elected or appointed officials who wish to comment, and I don't think there are, At this point, we'll open up the comment period to everyone else who wishes to comment. And you'll be called upon in the order that you raise your virtual hand. So if you want to comment, please feel free at this point to raise your virtual hand, and we'll start calling on people to provide comments.
First, we'll have Lindy Bancroft, and on deck will be Miriam Kirtland.
Okay.
When you receive the prompt, please click join as panelist. Hi, Lindy. Feel free to unmute yourself and make your comment.
So I didn't realize I was muted. I'm a Western Mass resident. I'm part of the group Western Mass Rights of Nature that's working on various ecological and cultural concerns in Western Mass. And one of my main concerns is that FirstLight seems to over and over and over again escape accountability. So as I watch this process, my main concern is there going to be any seriousness about holding FirstLight to standards, holding FirstLight to laws? The comments that we've already heard from Ray Purrington and Stephen Ellis were so on point, and there's so many other concerns. My major concerns, including the completely inadequate flow below the Turners Falls Dam. It's essentially a death zone below the Turners Falls Dam. The complete inadequacy of the fish ladder there. The fish are not successfully getting past the Turners Falls Dam, except in very small percentages. And the constant stalling by FirstLight that keeps being allowed, and nothing happens about their violations. And they say, oh, well, we'll attend to this. They're now saying, oh, they're going to take 10 years to do a fish ladder because it would be too expensive to do it sooner. They're making millions of dollars off of these facilities, but it's too expensive for them to improve their fish ladder quickly. They're not serious about ecology. They present themselves as this renewable energy source. Northfield Mountain runs at a huge energy loss, the pump station there. The Turners Falls Dam is what we call high impact hydro. It's not what it would make sense to build nowadays. It's questionable whether it made sense to build it back when it was built, but it's a complete anachronism now. And so now they're saying, oh, we're gonna put up a net that's completely experimental to try to have the Northfield Mountain pump storage station not be constantly killing all the fish and larvae and eggs that it sucks up every night. So what we really want to see in Western Mass, and I'll say, Western Mass, we often feel a little beat up on by the state, like our needs come in very low in state priorities historically. So we have some sensitivity about that out here. And what we really want to see is a much greater level of seriousness about treating FirstLight like any other operator. And like, no, we're not going to beg and plead, and we're not going to hear for the 5th time from them, oh, yes, we'll take care of that, and they don't. The erosion, the water flows, the incredible disruption to the river by the Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Station that at times causes the river to run backwards for 2 miles. I mean, there's the amount of damage that's being done in the supposed name of green energy. And so we really want to see FirstLight get a message from the state. No, you're not moving forward until you actually properly address these issues. They've been basically laughing in the face of indigenous concerns. They wrote very insulting, derisive responses to the concerns that were raised by indigenous individuals and indigenous groups. They didn't take those concerns the least bit seriously. In fact, like I say, they were openly insulting about them. In their
Mr. Bancroft, your time is up, but you can wrap up your comments.
I've made my key points, so I'm really happy with that. Thanks so much for listening to this. We really appreciate this process a lot.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bancroft, for participating. Appreciate it. Next up, I believe is, oh, go ahead, Tori.
Yep. Next, we will have Miriam Kirtland, and on deck is Andrew Fisk.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kirtland.
Hi there. Thank you for letting us talk. I just want to say I agree with everything that the commenters have put forth so far, and I'm totally concerned about all of this. And I don't understand how, you know, what purpose do all of our agencies serve if they don't stop a river from going backwards, killing thousands of fish, if not hundreds of thousands? I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. And destroying, eroding the land and causing all this havoc. We're at a time of climate change and biodiversity. And when we look for solutions for storage, but for pump storage or for any kind of storage or for damming, we can't have projects that are destroying the environment, destroying biodiversity. We have to be more thoughtful and respectful and not come up with these false solutions that really are only going to cause more havoc on the environment and on biodiversity. I just don't understand it. I've been to Turner's Dam and watched the fish trying to climb the ladder. I took my grandchildren there, and they were crying, watching how it was for the fish to make it up the ladder. And this is for these fish survival. And it's, you know, whether the fish are endangered or not endangered, it's just a crime. It's a crime to be doing this. And it's a crime for us not to be looking at ways to save energy. We're not even putting effort into conservation, into getting all these industries to not waste so much energy and to give incentives for both industries and private people to try to preserve as much energy as possible. We're so wasteful, and this is not an answer. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kurland.
Next, we will have Andrew Fisk, and on deck is Dodi Melnikoff.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fisk. And before you start, Mr. Fisk, I just want to mention to people in attendance that I believe we only have maybe one or two other people who have raised their hands to provide public comment. So if you want to do that, now is the time to raise your virtual hand to provide public comment. Okay, Mr. Fisk.
Great. My name is Andrew Fisk. I'm the Northeast Regional Director for American Rivers. First, thanks. Appreciate the DEP and all the work you've put into this process. It's unusual for a 401 process, and we are greatly appreciative of the opportunities for the public to engage, particularly because the timeframes for 401 processes have been shortened by statute. So we are immensely grateful. Also, thanks to FirstLight for engaging in conversations with the community. You have heard that there are 2 settlement agreements. We agree that there have been some improvements in the proposed operations for Turner's Falls Cabot Station, and the negotiated improvements in recreation are significant and important. That work would not have happened had the stakeholders and the general public not been involved. So it is great to be able to have broader conversation. You get better results. I will note that there is not, however, comprehensive settlement, and there is plenty of work for the DEP as well as the FERC to continue to deliberate on and create a license that is fair to the public and fair to the license holders. The remaining issues for American Rivers include the flows below the dam. Because DEP has an independent authority, as noted, to determine what meets water quality standards, we believe that the record that has been established will provide you an opportunity to create flows below the dam that will meet water quality standards. And we would ask you to consider that 1,400 in those flows after July 1 better attains aquatic life use and protecting the existing and designated uses of recreation. We have significant concerns about the reservoir fluctuations in the Turner's Falls impoundment. As was noted before, allowances to pumping down to 176 will not only affect aquatic life use, exaggerate and exacerbate erosion, but it will strand boats. And that has been documented by an event in 2021. And that is an impact on the existing and designated use of recreation. There is significant financial incentive, understandably, for Northfield Mountain to both pump below its historic numbers. Based on low or negative energy prices, they can actually get paid to pump, and we understand their financial rationale. but you cannot sacrifice water quality standards in the arbitrage for running Northfield Mountain. We recognize Northfield Mountain is an incredibly important storage resource for the grid, but we know that the company can maintain storage needs for the grid, make a reasonable return, and also do much better to protect existing and designated uses and water quality standards. We have significant concerns about the timing of the fish passage structures. There is really no engineering or technical basis for the agreement of the timing of the fish passage improvements, both at Turner's Falls and at Northfield Mountain. We do recognize that an open loop structure is a very significant problem, and we are stuck with that. The barrier net is one solution, but it is definitely only a partial solution. We recognize it as a difficult challenge, but that can be deployed much earlier. And we second the comments that have been made about erosion and clearly support the comments based on the towns of Gill and Montague to be able to figure out responsibility for mitigating and controlling erosion. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and we look forward to submitting comments. And again, thank you for the opportunity to undertake this process.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk.
Next,
Dory?
we'll have Jody Melnikoff, and on deck is Joseph Gravlin.
Okay. Hi, can people hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I am on my cell phone, so I'm having a little bit of trouble. I apologize for that. I don't mind coming to be visible, but let's see if I can do it. Okay.
Well, that's up to
There we
you.
go. Okay.
We can hear you well. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, I've been living here. I live in Greenfield. The river is very close part of this area. I entered this call today. Number one, to celebrate this beautiful river that's runs through 4 states. It's 410 miles long. And I concur with all the comments that have been made so far regarding concerns about erosion and about the silt. Those are 2 things that are not healthy for the river, for the aquatic life in the river to contend with, as well as for the farmers who are losing their land. I guess I argue that any of this is necessary. I think we're growing away from this kind of energy storage, that there's much more less environmentally impactful energy storage that's coming around the corner. I just see over the last 6 years or more that this license has been dragged out, that FirstLight hasn't really shown much initiative or concern for making any improvements, and have just been running kind of freelance with their extended license. So I see this as an indication for what we may expect in the future. In fact, we do see some indications that they want to increase the height of the storage. I'm not sure about the dam. Maybe it was even the dam. And while both of these systems go together, and I'm kind of opposed to both of them, both the Turner's Falls and the Northfield Mountain. The Northfield Mountain, I think, is the real monster looming on the river. We've had fishermen report that they were dragged from French King Bridge north upstream when the machine is running, when it's operating. It runs off of the grid, which is at this point mostly natural gas and mostly nuclear, and it doesn't create any new energy. In fact, it loses a lot of energy that, if that were captured, could be much more efficiently used than running this type of machine that is also known to destroy the river ecology, to kill thousands and thousands of fish. We talked to one fisherman who's been a fisherman on the Connecticut River for the last 30-something years. Recently, he stopped even going to Barton Cove because the smallmouth bass have pretty much been eliminated. And so, these are the kind of stories that we're hearing and that we're very concerned about. And like like Miriam said, you know, we're tired of these false solutions, and we're also tired of not being able to get information. We could not get information about FirstLight, which we understood was closed for a portion of time because of serious damage, functional damage. We couldn't get any information about that. We have no idea, like,
Ms.
we
Melnikoff,
really don't have any idea how it's used. And I just wanted, my last point will be,
okay,
when it has been out of operation, nobody has missed it. It's not worth it. Destroys too much life.
Thank you, Ms. Melnikoff. Thank you.
Next, we will have Joseph Greffing, and on deck will be Gary Selden.
Thank you for the time to speak. My name is Joe Gravlin. I'm Senior Advisor for the Nolambika Project Tribal Coalition that has the Chawabana Gungamug Band of Nipmuc Indians and the Alnu Abenaki Indian as part of our coalition. We own, with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, 64-acre parcel right at the foot of the dam on the west side of the river. It's a cultural preservation and environmental and natural landscape that's has protected status. I want to point out that the last license issued back in 1970 was completely absent any indigenous voices. This time around, we've been negotiating with FirstLight and FERC for over 12 years, trying to make our story as clear as possible. And we have absolutely nothing to show for it at this point in time. Now, I want to address the flow rates below the dam. Flow rates might be considered by DEP as something that impacts fish and natural habitat, but it amazingly so it impacts the preservation of cultural resources or the lack thereof. So a good part of the year, the bottom of the river, the channel of the river is dry down there. It impacts the water in a number of ways. It superheats from solar heating, and then the water that comes from the dam runs over those on the edges of those dry shale beds and heats up the water downstream. But the biggest part of it is there's over 12,000 years of history in the middle of that river. Indigenous people set up fish weirs all up and down that stretch below the dam. The Great Falls holds the Wissatinniwag village, which is the oldest running and largest village to exist on the Connecticut River. Its archaeology goes back over 10,000 years, documented, continuous habitation. So we have a lot of concerns about the cultural resources, both above the river that are impacted by erosion, and significantly so, and the dry shale beds and dry river bottom below the dam due to lack of flows a good part of the year. We also have, for Indigenous people, water is life. And for Indigenous people, water that moves is alive. And we see the Connecticut River as a living being. We don't see it as a cultural resource to be taken from for profits. To us, she has a life and she deserves respect. Now, I want to talk about the fish ladder. The fish lift that needs to replace the fish ladder that was a complete failure is really important to Indigenous people, because fish were the reason that the Wissatinniwag village and so many of the villages up and down the river were established. Fish were a big part of the culture, life, and spiritual being of Indigenous people. And we don't want to see a long period of time go by before a fish lift that can actually do the job. And that's here we are in the 21st century. We put a man on the moon in 1969, and we can't lift fish over the Connecticut River of the Turners Falls Dam. It just doesn't make sense, technologically speaking. And all the delays have been touted as being too expensive to implement immediately. But we do know that the Mountain Project made somewhere around $11 million in 2 or 3 hours Christmas Eve, a couple years back. That doesn't ring true here. The Mountain Project,
Mr. Grevlin, Mr. Grevlin, you're at your time limit, but you can wrap it up. I'll give you a few
okay.
more
The Mountain
seconds to wrap
Project is a major problem. It forces the river to run backwards, and there's an awful lot of cultural resources that have been lost and will be lost in the future. Want to make sure that Indigenous voices have a strong saying this time around. We have Federal 106 on our side. And in March 21st, 2021, the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation just issued a brand new series of documents that I think are very important for this licensing process. Thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that we're all here and have a chance to speak today.
Thank you.
Next, we will have Gary Selden, and on deck is Anna Yordi.
Mr. Selden?
Can you see me?
Can't see you, but can hear you. And if you would like to keep your camera off, that's fine. It's up to you.
My mistake.
Good to see you.
Wait, thank you. And greetings to environmental protection advocates, all of us. I'm here seeking environmental protection and aspiring to speak for the fish and for the river. The Northfield Mountain Pump Storage facility, in my view, crosses two red lines. One, its turbines grind up virtually all the aquatic life that passed through them. Two, its suck and release process overwhelm the natural flow of the river, crippling the river. As I experience life, wisdom comes from various sources. I have two brief quotes that I consider wisdom. One is from a very young person. Sometimes the youth bring us wisdom in a different way that I appreciate. Shayla Freeland is a resident of Gill. And 2.5 years ago in November, she wrote, "I'm 14 years old, I live in Gill. The turbines of the pump station suck in life and throw out death." Very succinct, summing up the ethical issues. Wisdom also comes from experience and study. The U.S. Geological Service states that Dr. Alex Harrow is an ecologist, a fish biologist at the Silvio Conti Adrominus Fish Research Laboratory in Turners Falls, and serves as a section leader of the Fish Passage Engineering Section. On May 8th of last year, the Greenfield resident, Alex Harrow, submitted comments to FERC as a private citizen. His final sentences, and please go look them up, they're all very much on point. His final sentences summarize his comments, and I quote, "NMPS was probably a bad idea to begin with. I would therefore encourage FERC to consider modification of NMPS as a closed system with the addition of a lower reservoir with little or no connection to the Connecticut River. If this alternative proves infeasible, then other means of energy storage for the region ought to be considered," close quote. In its more than 50 years of operation, we've, myself included, we've become accustomed to this ongoing desecration, and it's time to say no more. It's just plain immoral. Its power and profit generating capabilities are not worth the death and destruction it brings to the aquatic life of the river and to the river itself. That's what I have to say. Thank you for your work. Good luck. Stand up for us. We need you.
Thank you, Mr. Selden.
Next, we will have Anna Yordi, and on deck is Pamela Kelly.
Before you start speaking, Ms. Yorgi, I want to remind people that there was a question that came in asking about submitting written comments, and I was going to address that at the end, but the answer is yes. The written comment period is open until June 3rd at 5 p.m. So that is still possible. Okay, sorry to interrupt, Ms. I think it's Yorgi.
Georgie.
Georgie. Okay.
Hard. A lot of Y's.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Anna Georgie. I live in Wendell. We are a town of 920 people, not far from the Connecticut River in the basin. We are currently involved in opposing a different kind of battery storage facility, lithium powered, that is partially funded by FirstLight. but I'm speaking today and I am chair of the Wendell Energy Committee, but I'm speaking today for the Trap Rock Center for Peace and Justice, because we oppose the Northfield Mountain continued functioning of the Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Facility as an environmental justice issue and an a nuclear issue, because this facility is a remnant of the nuclear age and was only made sense to some people back in the late 60s and early 70s as a way to use the excess power from the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant. That plant was closed in 2014. The Montague nuclear stations were not built with much opposition, and we forgot part of the fight, and that was to close this facility. It could never be licensed today. It's so destructive, and you've heard of different areas of it, but the fact of it presenting itself as a green energy solution and part of the picture is really just a flagrant lie, and it is a buy cheap, sell dear corporate project, and we oppose it. And we hope you will have hearings in our area, and we'll hear from many people who have a lot of experience and good information as to why this facility should be closed, and FirstLight should not be licensed by FERC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Georgie.
Next, we will have Pamela Kelly, and on deck is Laura Kay.
And I believe that after these two people speak, I believe and comment, I believe there's no one else who has raised their hand at this point to speak. So if you wish to do so, feel free to do that at this point.
Pamela, you should receive a request to join as panelist. If you could click join as panelist and then speak. Thank you. Why don't we jump ahead to Laura Kay while Pamela works out the tech issues?
Okay, Ms. Kay.
See.
I think we can hear you, Ms. Kay, but we can't see you. I thought you said something earlier. Apparently not. Ms. Kay, can you hear us? Sorry, should we try connecting with Pamela again? Not Pamela Harvey, but the other Pamela who wanted to comment.
Sent her a message and haven't heard back, so maybe we can. Oh, it looks like
there's Ms. Kay. Good afternoon, Ms. Kay.
I have this low bandwidth problem. I'll try again, and if I can't, I'll speak again this evening. But what I was going to say was that I'm not surprised to have recognized quite a number of the people who spoke already, all of them actually, because a lot of people have been working on this issue for the past few years. Well,
Ms. Kay. Ms. Kay.
them for like Joe for
Ms.
20
Kay,
years, how important the river is to our life, to the ecosystem. And no? Okay.
Ms. Kay, I was going to
All right.
suggest that you could turn off your camera and then we can hear you better because you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
There you go.
That's better. Okay. I'll try
Yeah, that's
again.
better. Thank you.
Can I basically start over again that I was going to say that I recognize a number of the people here that we have been working very hard, a small group of us for years on this issue. And more recently, some number of us started an organization we call the Connecticut River Defenders to really press home the points and to try to educate the public. We've done quite a number of things over the past few years. And I have to say that when we explain what goes on, which has been articulated by the previous speakers, I don't need to repeat all the points. They're all really good points. We've gotten very little opposition, very few people saying, oh no, you're wrong. This is all, your facts are wrong. Your thinking about this is wrong. In general, the public is in favor of not relicensing Northfield non-pumps.
Ms. Kay? Ms. Kay, can you hear me?
Now, is that right?
No, well, hold on there a moment, Ms. Kelly. We lost Ms. Kay. She has a signal that keeps getting interrupted, apparently. Ms. Kay, can you hear us?
Okay, I think I'll just stop for now.
All right, well, I just heard you say that.
Yeah.
Do you want to try to finish?
No, I'm going to try to speak again tonight, and I'll just get better bandwidth wherever I am.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kay. All right, Ms. Kay.
Yeah. We've got two panelists here, right? So thanks for holding this hearing. I've been attending the hearings on storage. So first, I'd like to put a PS. I was on the I'm on the Nolambika board. I want to put a PS for Joe Gravelin. I could have easily raised that, but he is far more experienced than I. And also on Gary Selden. I suggested that we try exploring a far more reasonable idea, which is a closed circle pumping system that doesn't exploit the river and actually kill it. But I have been attending as a climate activist the hearings on storage. So what I want to bring to the table today is the fact that I sat in on the storage hearings and noticed immediately that at the top of the list, by far, the cheapest way to get storage for electric energy is pumped storage, hydroelectric pump storage. And that hearing that I sat in with CESA, the Clean Energy States Alliance, also on storage, confessed that the pumped storage facility is in Northfield. So I presume that's the hydro pump storage facility in Northfield. And it is almost meeting the goal that's needed for the climate change movement. But the point is that you can't kill the Connecticut River and cheaply, very cheaply cover your butt, with killing the river while you're trying to save the climate. It's just not reasonable and it's not sustainable. And for every reason that Joe mentioned, it's not morally acceptable and it will kill us too. So, because it shreds every living thing out of the river, that pumped hydro system. And what's been proposed is so miserably cheap that it is not a wise move in any possible way. And the idea that FirstLight doesn't have the money for a reasonable fish ladder or for a reasonable alternative to build a closed system at the bottom and to circulate the water round and round in a circle so that it's not killing every living being that's in the river is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it is just ridiculous because it is, by comparison, worth peanuts compared to what is available. I wasn't intending to speak today, but you know, this is an area that really needs to be raised. And I think that our federal rep is looking at the effects of the death of the river for the cities, towns, and other governments upstream. Yeah, you know, it really deserves serious legal action, really. So if there are any serious legal action activists listening today, we should really try to put a stop to this before it becomes a moot point. So thanks for your hearing. I am also really upset about the lack of responsibility from the federal officials to enforce the law as it exists for endangered species. It's just, the whole thing is laughable almost. And so I hope you will defend us because it's terribly important for us that we have your help. So thank you so much, Mr. Jones. I appreciate the opportunity to be present, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking, Ms. Kelly.
Next, we will have Sarah Matthews, and on deck is Priscilla Litch.
Hi, I'm
Afternoon.
Sarah Matthews. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm a resident of Western Massachusetts and also co-founder of Western Mass Rights of Nature. We'll be submitting comments, written comments to you with some of the specifics. I want to echo all the comments that have already been made, and we'll be providing some comments like those that are targeted towards the review that MassDEP will be doing. I just am commenting, in this forum to just step back and say that since founding our group, so for about just over the past year, we've done a number of public events and outreach around this issue and worked with a lot of people. And there's just tremendous concern among residents of Western Massachusetts who love the Connecticut River dearly and see on a daily basis the terrible damage that these facilities do to the river and its ecosystem. And the damage is increasing because of the impacts of climate change. And people are just very, very concerned. And we understand that DEP is a state agency and that it is part of the system that we have, but we just plead with you to, really think about supporting the residents of Massachusetts, the residents of the Commonwealth who are concerned about these facilities. FirstLight is not Massachusetts. It's owned by the Canadian government. It's primarily doing what it's doing the way companies do to make money. As people have said, it's not oriented towards the environment. That's a secondary concern to the extent they need to comply with regulations, but that's not what its primary purpose is. It's making money, and it's making money, as I said, it's owned by the Canadian government. And our river is not something that is replaceable. I agree with Joe Graveline that the river is a living being, And I just, just urge you to please consider all the concerns, the legitimate concerns that people have out here. And it's people of all ages. We've spoken to so many young people who are so terribly concerned about what's happening environmentally. And it's not just about climate change. It's also about loss of biodiversity, species loss. And if you think about what a river is and the importance of connectivity, the importance of things like anadromous fish, which are in the river and they're in the ocean as adults, they go back up the rivers to spawn, and they're bringing added nutrients back and forth. They're essential. Some of these anadromous fish are what ocean fish feed on, so they support our ocean fish populations. It's so important to have that connectivity. It's so important to have a healthy river, and people who live out here know this in our bones, as it were, because we see it and we see the terrible negative impacts. So again, I'll stop talking now, but I'm just pleading with you to think about the concerns of just the average residents of the Massachusetts Commonwealth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews.
Next, we will have Priscilla Lynch, and on deck is Arlie Gold.
Ms. Lynch?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, thank you. So, I'm just going to have to repeat a lot of what you've already heard, but that just makes it clear how people here feel and how important these issues are to us. And so I do want to speak to the fact that the Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Station has been operating for over 50 years. Over 50 years, licensed before the Clean Water Act. Never had to account for the Clean Water Act. Well, now they're going to have to, and we hope that you will assure that that happens. And my understanding of the Clean Water Act is that you can't interfere with the natural flow of a river. And that's exactly what the Northfield Mountain Pump Station does to the Connecticut River. And as you've heard, it kills everything that it pulls in. It spews it all out again. It's a sick, sick process. And we want it to stop, especially now, given the climate emergency we're in. We're going to keep doing these kind of things when we know what we have to do is, make our ecosystems healthy and ourselves healthy with them, that we're not separate. They're not here just for us to exploit and use. They're here to be appreciated by us and to have reciprocity with. And I think everyone here has made that clear as well. I also want to just second what a bad actor FirstLight is. It's a huge corporation. If it's a corporation, it's a huge entity of some sort. I don't know how you would even define it. It's so big. And all it wants is money. It can't invest in a net until it's made enough money to pay for it. So you can't have the net for another 10 years. When anyone we've ever talked to about it says, that's not going to work. So the process of working with the stakeholders, it was flawed, undemocratic, and foolish. Why, if you're trying to work with people on what is the best thing to do here and get agreement, to keep them from talking to each other or limit what they can say? When we talked to Fish and Wildlife and asked about the Clean Water Act, they said, we can't talk to you about the water. We're not allowed to. We can only talk to you about the fish. Pretty darn absurd. And it's time for that to stop. And it's time, I think, we're banking on your agency to do that. I'm worried about that. I'm concerned about that. In part because of the process you've set up. When I look at the process, you say in 9 months, we're going to have another come together and you're going to share your draft proposal. Oh, that means it's already a done deal. You're going to relicense it. It's beyond me how you could make that decision without looking at everything here and listening to everybody. So I would really hope that you will open up your thinking about this and listen to people and, you know, do what's best for the environment, what's best for the people. Because we are going to be here and we are going to be watching and we are going to be participating. And we're not going to stand for any baloney. We're not fools and we're not fooled.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch.
Next, we will have Arlie Gould, and currently no one else in line to comment.
If there's anyone else who wishes to comment after Arlie Gould, please raise your virtual hand now. Arlie Gould?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, thank you. I wasn't going to speak today either. I'm learning a lot. I knew a little bit about this before I joined. My issues that I'm seeing is the length of the last licensing. I know there's been calls to not give such a long license this time, and I really support that because, in part because the new technologies that are being created. I'm from Western Mass. I live near UMass Amherst. I'm an alumni, get their magazine, and in that magazine, scientists at UMass have discovered how to make electricity from humidity. And it's small now, you know, it's not at scale and stuff, but this is what's coming. And as the article pointed out, there's humidity in a desert. Humidity is everywhere. Like, this is the future. And as somebody else commented, these are anachronistic things that happened. And I don't know if they should be closed or not. I know there's money agreements and maybe Massachusetts makes some money from this entity and it's complicated. But what I'm saying is the technology of energy production is moving forward, and this form is old and it's not necessary anymore. It's not going to be necessary anymore. And it very likely will be, if you gave a license for 50 years, they'd probably be out of business long before that because it's just not going to be necessary anymore to do this. And in my experience, it's money that changes things, unfortunately. I also feel, you know, the river and all of these things need to be cared for, but in the world we live in, FirstLight is not going to open their heart to that. It's going to be money. And I hope that you can protect us, but I also hope that, like, the license is short. I don't think maybe you have control over that, but anyway, you get the picture. New energy forms are here, they're coming. This is an old thing. It's like closing the nuclear plants. This would be akin, I think, to that. It's time to close these things because they kill everything. It's not even that they could kill everything or will in the future. They're doing it now. And so it's akin to closing the nuclear plants. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Gould.
Thank you.
And there's currently no one in line to speak.
Okay. If someone else wishes to provide public comment, please raise your virtual hand now. Otherwise, we'll soon close the public hearing. And while we're waiting for someone else to raise their hand, I'll remind folks that you can submit written comments during this comment period until June 3rd by email to dep.hydro, HYDRO, at mass.gov. So you can submit those by email, and you should put in the subject line FirstLight 401 WQC. That's FirstLight 401 WQC. And the comment period is open until 5 p.m. on June 3rd.
And we have a raised hand from Ms. Melnikoff again.
Great. Okay. Ms. Melnikoff?
No, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had a few questions, and I don't know if this is the place to ask
Well,
them, but I
yeah,
think they're just
Ms.
like,
Ms.
Yeah.
Melnikoff,
Yes.
sorry, I apologize for interrupting you.
No, it's okay.
We will not be responding to questions now.
Oh, okay, all right.
However, there will be, as it provides on our webpage, I think you've, hopefully you've seen our webpage by now that's devoted to the FirstLight project. We have a section on that webpage that explains future opportunities for both public comment on the draft certification and then also a public information session that will be held in the fall, near the end of September, early October. And that'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions and engage in dialogue with the folks who will be at that public information session.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say quickly, I saw something that said, questions, send it to Elizabeth Stefnik. So I might have misunderstood, but maybe there's a process where any questions, maybe she'll answer me. I don't know, but thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Melnikoff. Is there anyone else at this point who wishes to provide public comment? Please raise your hand at this time. Otherwise, we'll be closing the hearing in about a minute. I'll give it another minute. It's 2:54 right now, and I'll give it till 2:55.
We have Miss Curlin with the raised hand. Oh, and it went down again.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's 2:55 on the afternoon of May 29th, 2024. And it appears that we've heard from everyone at this time who wishes to provide public comment during this public hearing. There is another public hearing, which will be virtual again, this evening, beginning at 7 p.m. And we'll be following the same procedures there. As I said before, written comment period is open until June 3rd at 5 p.m. I want to thank everybody who participated. We appreciate it. And we'll be taking everyone's comments into consideration as we move forward. So at this point, if there's no further comments, and Tori, are there any further virtual hands up for comments? Do you see any virtual hands?
I see no more raised hands.
Okay, at this point, it appears nobody wishes to comment. So I'm going to close the hearing at this point. It is now 2:56 p.m. on May 29th, 2024, and we'll open another hearing tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. I want to thank everybody again for participating. Thank you very much, and perhaps we'll see some of you again tonight.